We've been through the process of multiple tables, the reason for those multiple tables, and normalization to even force upon us the use of multiple tables as a way of speeding up your queries when using Access. So we're bought into the fact that we need multiple tables, but we have a drawback when we're using those tables in that when I open the customers table, for example, and I tab through, looking to perhaps edit or enter some data, in that I hit some columns that are just full of numbers, such as the country region. I need to know the code. The yearly income is a code. I need to know the code. And at some point, if we normalize properly our education and occupation columns, those two will just be codes. Now, when you're in a table, it's a bit annoying to then have to go open the other table to find out what the code means, or to go look in the other table to find out what code to put. A way around that is to use the lookups within your table structure. In order to do this, we go into the design of our table. Let's come down to the country region name. So here, when I'm working the table, I'm quite happy for Access that it wants the ID because it will work a lot faster. But as a human, I want to see the country region name itself. Well, I can do that by replacing the country region name, instead of seeing the number, with a lookup. Now, in order to do that, I'm going to use the lookup wizard. So it's set as a different data type, but it isn't a different data type. It's just a way of looking up to fill the number in. So we're going to go through the lookup wizard. You may or may not get this security warning, but it's okay to open. And I can't change that relationship because it's already in a relationship. So although I can use a lookup, I can't directly use the wizard. That's because I already have a relationship set between this field and another field, i.e. TBL countries. Now that doesn't stop me from using the lookup, it just means I have to create it manually. So let's start by using the lookup wizard in one of the other fields so you get a hang of what's going to happen, and then we'll set this one up manually. So we're going to come down to the yearly income field instead, which we know is a set of numbers in this particular table, but has some values in the yearly income table. Let's change the number format to a lookup wizard. Where do I want to get the values from in my lookup? I want to look them up in another field from another table, or do I want to type them in? Let's look them up in another table. Next, which table contains the lookup values? The yearly income table does, Guy. Thank you. Next, which fields do I need to see? Well, I need both. The ID is for Access to place in the field, but the label is the one I want to see. Next, do you want them in a particular order? Well, let's have them ascending order of their label. Next, this is what I will then see. The key column has been hidden, and it's recommended that you hide it. If I unhide it, you can see it's just the IDs for the labels, but I don't want to see that. The whole point of this lookup is to replace those IDs, as great and useful as they are, with text values for me as a human. Next, what label would you like? Well, that's just the name of the field that I'm in, and it stays the same. Do I want to enable data integrity? So that's referential integrity, meaning I can only choose from the list. Well, yes, I do. And then an option for cascade delete and restrict delete. Well, we'll leave this as restrict delete. And then finish. Table must be saved before any relationship can be created. Save now. And if we view that in action, we're coming across to the yearly income. You can see the yearly income now appears to give me a text value back like I used to have. However, it's not a text value, it's a drop box showing me the 5 text values from the yearly income table, but placing the ID into the customers table. So although even in the table, when I use this lookup option, I can see text values, it's not the text value that's being stored, it's the number behind that text value that's being stored. So that's by using a lookup in the table to make life easier for you as a human. Now the other option we looked at was the country region name that we wanted to add a lookup to but couldn't because there was already a relationship. Well, just before we look at that, let's use our little lookup wizard to make life slightly easier for the gender field. It only has 2 values, male and female. So let's add a lookup wizard However, this time they're not stored in another table. I'm just going to type them in. Next, what are the values? They are male and female. They're the two values I'm offering them as gender choices. Next, do you want to limit to the list, or do you want people to allow them to type their own? No, let's limit to the list. Do you want to allow multiple values? No, you can only be one or the other. And then finish. That way, when we save and view, when we get to the gender column, you'll see again we have a drop list and the choices are male or female. I know the current values are F and M, but our values are male and female. Now those are, in this case, actual text values that will be dropped into the field, whereas the yearly income is a label and it's the ID that will get dropped into the field. Now, with our country region name, because we already have a relationship in place, we cannot use the wizard, but that's not to stop us from coming down to the properties at the bottom and choosing the lookup option ourselves. Choose the lookup type, a list box or a combo box. So a combo box is a little drop down, just like we're using here in fact, and a list box is a list of choices within the same rectangle. Well, let's go with a combo box. Where is my source data? It's a table or a query. What is the row source? Well, it's going to come from TBL yearly income. Which column contains the value that will be placed in the field? That's what the bound column refers to. Well, it's column 1. Now our table, TBL yearly income, only has 2 columns. Column 1 is the ID, column 2 is the label. So column count is going to actually be 2. Do I want the column headings? No. What are my column widths? Well, this is where I set the column widths to 0 and 0.5 inches. The 0 is the width of the first column, which is the ID. I don't wish to see that. So we're effectively hiding that column ourselves. And then 0.5 is the width of the column for the actual labels. List rows, do we need these restricting? They're currently restricted to 16. Well, there's actually only 5 in the data anyway, so that's fine. List width automatic, limit to list, yes. Allow multiple values, no. Allow value list edits, no. List items edit form, not applicable. Show only row source. That's our manual setup of a drop-down list for this time the country region name. Useful therefore if I picked the right data, which is countries. Luckily, it's still the first column that's the ID. We want to see 2 columns, but we're actually hiding the first of them by putting that as a 0 and then ½ inch. So let's save and view and see if that works. When we come across to the countries, you'll see they do now appear as text values in our table, but it's driven by a drop list. The drop list is coming from the countries table, where we're hiding the ID, but it's the ID that goes into the table. So this is still using normalization. So we're using ID numbers where we have repeating values, but we're just making life a little easier for human interaction with the table by adding lookups into our tables.